It came upon a midnight clear, that glorious song of old, from angels bending near the earth to touch their harps of gold. One of the classic old Christmas carols. Christmas carols are the closest thing we have to hearing the angels sing. You remember that night that Christ was born, the angels sang to the shepherds out in the fields. And the shepherds heard the news and they rushed into Bethlehem to see the Christ child lying in the manger. It was the music of the angels that did it. So Christmas and music are always together. They can't be separated. Christmas wouldn't be Christmas without music. Christmas wouldn't be Christmas without Christmas carols. I grew up on Christmas carols. When I was a kid, we sang Christmas carols at home. We sang them at Scouts. And I especially remember singing Christmas carols on Christmas Eve when we went to the candlelight service at church. Silent night, holy night with all the candles glowing. Such a magical thing for a little boy. When I was in youth group, we would go to door singing Christmas carols, and we'd knock on the door and then we'd start singing and the people would come out on the porch, and they always enjoyed it, and sometimes they would even bring us goodies, especially if we told them we were coming beforehand. And I remember feeling so awkward as a teenage boy trying to sing with my voice that was changing, and the snap of the winter air and the crunching across the snow. It's really good memories that I have of that. I'm sure many of us have memories of singing Christmas carols when we were younger. Well, for me, Christmas carols really stimulated my imagination. We sang, "Joy to the world, the Lord has come, let earth receive her King." And I imagined Jesus being the king of the whole earth. And we sang, "O little town of Bethlehem, how still we see thee lie." Into my imagination, this beautiful little village of Bethlehem was lying there underneath the stars, so beautiful and so quiet. And we sang, "Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King, peace on earth and mercy mild, God and sinners reconciled." This was the time of the Cold War, and worried about the Russians flying their jets overhead and dropping the atomic bomb on us. So when I heard this song, I thought of the whole earth being at peace and God being at peace with humans. It really comforted me. We sang all those songs when I was a kid. I learned some good poetry too. In the bleak midwinter, frosty winds made moan. Earth stood hard as iron, water like a stone. Snow had fallen, snow on snow, in the bleak midwinter, long, long ago. Christmas carols taught us good English, good poetry, good theology. Everyone who sings Christmas carols, I think, learns the Christmas story sort of by default. It's just kind of, you soak it up, it comes in by osmosis. We learn how the angel told Mary that she was going to have a baby, and how Mary and Joseph went to Bethlehem and there was no room in the inn, so they had to stay in a stable, and the baby was born and she wrapped him in bands of cloth and laid him in the manger, and how the angels sang to the shepherds and they came to see the baby. All that theology and that story is in the Christmas carols we sang. And that's how we learn it. Christmas carols tell the story. After I left home and I was in my 20s, I don't think I paid too much attention to Christmas carols. But when I became a father, Christmas carols started to have a new meaning for me. we got married and had 2 little boys, and we were living in a small town in Alaska. And I joined a group of Oxford carolers. There's about 6 or 8 of us. Every Saturday morning, starting in October, we would get together at Joyce Jenkins' house in her living room, and we would sing these old carols from the Oxford Book of Carols. A cappella, 4-part harmony, and it was just so beautiful hearing the voices and the harmonies in that living room. These were carols that were written long ago, back in the 1400s and the 1500s in England and in other countries. And they were, simple songs that ordinary folk could sing with folk melodies and words that people understood. And many of them arose from these little villages, and they were sort of, that was the village's song, and they kept it over the centuries. Around 1650, Oliver Cromwell and the Puritans came to power in England, and they were very strict and very severe, and they prohibited the celebration of Christmas Day, and they outlawed Christmas carols. Of course, that didn't stop people. The Christmas carols went underground, and people sang them anyway in their homes and in the farmhouses and out in the fields. And even after Cromwell and the Puritans were out of power, people still kept their Christmas carols in their villages, and they lived in the villages in the countryside. It wasn't until the late 1800s that the Christmas carols were collected. People went out to these villages and listened to the old people, and they wrote down those hymns, the Christmas carols, and they collected them in books like the Oxford Book of Carols. And so they've been preserved for us. So Christmas carols are the music of the people. We sing Christmas carols because we love them. Well, when I was singing with the Oxford carolers in that living room and out in the community, we would sing for groups, and we'd sing on Christmas Eve. When I was singing with them, I started to understand Christmas in a new way. The carols sing about Jesus in such a tender and soft way that, and they talk about the baby Jesus and about Joseph and Mary, and I just sort of, we had 2 little boys at that time, just in diapers, and I sort of naturally put Katie and me in the place of Mary and Joseph, because as a young father, I was singing to my babies and holding them, changing their diapers, and giving them baths and putting them to bed. And so the carols spoke to me about the tender love of Mary and Joseph for the baby Jesus, and I identified with them in a way I never had before. I guess those carols sort of opened my heart to Jesus in a way that my heart hadn't been opened before. The carols, they're designed to open your heart, and they came from people whose heart had been opened. They just use plain language to speak about things that we all understand, parenthood and shelter and animals. The Christmas carols evoke wonder and mystery and awe. And that's what God is about. That's how we understand God. Christmas carols are the perfect way to express, the message of Jesus, that God came to earth as a vulnerable little baby and to a teenage mother and a poor carpenter. That's the message of Christmas. Well, Silent Night is one of the most beloved Christmas carols of all. And the words to this song were written by an Austrian pastor in 1816. And a couple of years later, he was the pastor at the church in uh, Oberndorf, Austria. And it was almost Christmas, and the church organ broke down, and they couldn't get it fixed in time for Christmas Eve service. So he went to the organist, and he said, whose name was Franz Gruber, and he said, can you write some music to these words that we can sing to the guitar on Christmas Eve? And so he did, and that was the first singing of Silent Night. When the repairman came to repair the organ, he heard this song, and he thought it was so beautiful, he took it back to his village where he came from, and they sang it. And there were a couple of musical groups that were traveling musical groups, and they heard the song, and they started taking it with them wherever they went to sing, and they even sang it in front of the Emperor of Austria. And the song eventually came to America and became very popular. Such a beautiful song with such beautiful lyrics. Silent Night helps us slow down. It helps us calm our minds, and it puts us in a peaceful place, a calm place where we're at the manger, and the baby Jesus is lying there so peaceful, and it helps our hearts to just slow down and enter into the spirit of Christmas. Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright. Round yon virgin, mother and child, holy infant, so tender and mild, sleep in heavenly peace. Sleep in heavenly peace. So I hope that when you hear the Christmas carols this year, and when you sing the Christmas carols, you will hear the Christmas story again, and I hope that Christ will be born in your heart again.